You know those massive, glossy sustainability reports companies put out? You see their grand promises to save the planet, and you kind of have to wonder, is any of this actually real? Or are we just looking at theoretical statements designed to look good on paper while masking deep, unresolved environmental risks behind the scenes? It's a question we all ask when we see buzzwords like green and eco-friendly thrown around in corporate marketing.
Well, there's actually a real solution to this whole corporate greenwashing problem. Enter the ISO 14001-2026 lead auditor. You can really think of them as the rigorous enforcers of environmental integrity. Their entire professional existence is dedicated to cutting through the corporate jargon and turning those theoretical, high-level statements into measurable, verifiable operational practices. Basically, if a company makes a big claim, this is the person who makes sure they are actually doing the work.
So, welcome to this explainer. Today, we're demystifying a highly specialized and, quite frankly, incredibly important role. We're going to break down the actual mandate of the ISO 14001-2026 lead auditor and see exactly how global environmental accountability functions on the ground.
Here's our roadmap for today. We'll start with the purpose and scope, then look at the 3 types of audits, dive into primary accountability areas, and finally, wrap up with driving continuous improvement. Let's get right into it. Starting with Section 1, Purpose and Professional Scope.
The core philosophy driving the lead auditor is that environmental management is absolutely not a static compliance exercise. This isn't just about someone showing up with a clipboard once a year and checking off a few boxes to keep a regulator happy. It's an ongoing, strategic commitment to environmental stewardship, climate resilience, and sustainable resource utilization. The auditor is there to validate that this commitment is actually woven into the very DNA of the organization. And pulling that off requires an incredibly broad skill set. A lead auditor isn't just an environmental scientist, although they definitely need that deep technical expertise. They also need to be a legal expert who understands complex regulatory frameworks, a leader who can manage an entire audit team, a strategic thinker evaluating environmental risk, and a data analyst interpreting performance metrics. They're assessing everything from the maturity of a company's governance structures to the actual resources being allocated to protect the environment.
All right, moving on to Section 2, the 3 types of audits.
First up, we have the first-party audit, which you might know better as an internal audit. The primary goal here is really continuous internal improvement rather than formal certification. Imagine a manufacturing company doing a self-evaluation of its waste management procedures. During this internal check, they might find a gap, like, say, certain departments are failing to consistently label hazardous waste containers. The first-party audit allows them to catch that deficiency and correct it way before it becomes a dangerous incident or faces any external scrutiny. Next, we have the second-party audit. This one is all about supply chain assurance. Because, let's face it, an organization's environmental impact doesn't just magically stop at its own factory doors. So, they audit the external parties they do business with. Picture a large construction company auditing a supplier that provides them with chemical materials. The auditor evaluates if that supplier maintains safe transportation practices and proper chemical storage. It's really about extending accountability beyond your own boundaries and making sure your partners aren't creating hidden risks for you. Finally, there's the third-party audit. This is the heavyweight evaluation conducted by an independent certification body. Strict independence is the absolute rule here. The auditors simply cannot have any conflicts of interest with the organization. This total impartiality is what gives the final ISO 14001 certification its credibility. When a company passes a third-party audit, regulators, customers, investors, and society at large can actually trust that the organization's environmental risks are being systematically managed to an international standard. When you put them all together, they create a really brilliant layered assurance model. You've got first-party audits for internal improvement, second-party audits for supply chain assurance, and third-party audits for external credibility and certification. The level of required independence scales up as you move through them, creating a comprehensive web of environmental accountability. It's also worth noting that this is absolutely not a one-and-done deal. Third-party certification follows a strict timeline. You don't just pass an initial certification audit, hang a certificate on the wall, and forget about it. The lead auditor returns for periodic surveillance audits to make sure the system hasn't degraded, which is eventually followed by a full recertification audit. It's a great reminder that compliance is a continuous, multi-year journey. Which brings us to Section 3, Primary Areas of Accountability.
So how do they actually do this? Well, they follow a highly rigorous, evidence-based process. Step 1, they evaluate the organizational context. What are the specific climate risks or stakeholder pressures unique to this company? Step 2, they verify the environmental policy to ensure it provides clear strategic direction. Step 3. They assess how the company identifies its environmental aspects and impacts, like water usage or emissions. Step 4. They confirm the company is actively tracking and meeting all its legal and regulatory obligations. And Step 5. They validate the risk-based planning, ensuring the company is proactively preparing for potential environmental threats.
To put this into perspective, let's say a company publicly claims they are going to achieve a 25% reduction in greenhouse gas emissions over the next 5 years. The lead auditor doesn't just politely applaud the goal, they go in and verify the actual operational controls backing it up. Are there measurable indicators? Are monitoring mechanisms really in place? Is leadership actually providing the budget to hit this 25% reduction? Simply put, if the evidence isn't there, the claim doesn't stand.
And to gather that evidence, the auditor literally evaluates the organization from the absolute top to the very bottom. They look at top management's leadership commitment. Is the C-suite genuinely integrating environmental strategy into their core business decisions? But they also verify workforce competence and awareness, all the way down on the factory floor. They check operational control effectiveness, and they even review emergency preparedness, ensuring the boots-on-the-ground staff know exactly how to handle simulated crisis scenarios, like a chemical spill response drill.
Let's transition to our fourth and final area, driving continuous improvement.
This is all about shifting an organization's mindset. We aren't just treating symptoms here, we're performing deep root cause analysis. If an auditor finds an environmental nonconformity, say a minor regulatory violation, they won't accept a temporary Band-Aid fix. They mandate that the company investigates the underlying root cause to completely prevent the recurrence of the issue. It's the difference between just wiping up a puddle on the floor and actually fixing the leaky pipe.
Let's ground this concept of continuous improvement with a real-world example. Consider the textile industry, which is traditionally very resource-intensive. A lead auditor will evaluate whether a textile plant is actually using its performance data to identify improvement opportunities. By tracking their water consumption metrics, the plant might identify the need to install advanced water recycling systems. The auditor then verifies that this initiative is supported by real targets and actual resource allocation, effectively turning performance data into a massive reduction in environmental impact.
So, that really brings us to the core of why the ISO 14001:2026 lead auditor is so absolutely vital. They're the objective, highly trained professionals keeping organizations accountable to our shared planet. As we wrap up this explainer today, I want to leave you with a quick question to reflect on, whether it's regarding your own organization or the companies you choose to do business with. Who is auditing your environmental impact? Because at the end of the day, without verification, a promise is just a promise. Thank you so much for joining me today, and keep learning.